Hello and welcome to Leitrim Daily. My name is Breifne and you are listening to episode 112 of the podcast. Today's show is brought to you in association with Padraig King and his Learn How to Switch Off Your Anxiety and Rewire Your Brain for Success course next week. More on that a little bit later in the show. Today we are previewing the sports action for the next couple of days in the county, and it is yet another bumper weekend of sporting action. We'll be starting the show with ladies football, and while attention focuses this Saturday on The Cube event in the Landmark on Saturday evening from 8 p.m, one of the leading talents of the game in the county has left these shores for a new opportunity. I caught up earlier in the week with Aine Tighe, who has taken up the opportunity of a contract with the Freemantle Dockers in the Women's AFL in Australia. We'll be hearing how she's looking forward to that particular challenge. We'll also be talking to Joe Flynn, manager of St Mary's, and one of the Mohill players, Alan Armstrong, ahead of their clash tomorrow in the Division 1 League final this weekend. Saoirse Cummins of Manorhamilton Rangers will be talking to us about her under-13 boys side, and they're in action in the Skechers Cup tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. in the B Park, and they're hosting Mayo opposition in what is effectively the last 16 in Connacht of that national competition. A big day for the young lads from Manor Rangers, and Saoirse is going to be telling us all about that team within the club, as well as a little bit of a tidbit on the club itself. While Dermot Foley of Carrick and Shannon Rugby Club will be talking to us about how their season's going so far and looking forward to their game on Saturday evening away to Craig's in the Junior 1C League in Connacht. We'll be taking a look at all the other fixtures of the weekend as well, including the Junior A Championship final on Sunday between Anaduff and Glencar Manor. Anyway, let's hear how myself and Aine got on in our conversation before she flew out to Australia earlier in the week. Now, it's not every day that Gaelic footballers get the opportunity to make a living from the world of sport, especially professional sport, but that's happening this week for one excited young lady from Kiltubbard. Aine Tighe, welcome to the programme.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
We better be careful and say it's not Gaelic games you're going to earn a living from, but your expertise in Gaelic games has earned you the opportunity to get a professional contract in the Women's AFL in Australia. So you're off tomorrow, as we're talking, to Freemantle in Western Australia. It must be an exciting time in your life. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I suppose it's a huge opportunity. I've been kind of lucky enough to get the opportunity to head across, and as you say, not too many people, either male or female, get the opportunity to make a living out of sport, so it's a bit of a dream come true, and hopefully it'll live up to all the expectations in the coming months.
How much do you know about Freemantle? Have you been there before?
No, haven't been to Australia before at all, but I've been in contact with the girls and the guys in the club for the last couple of months, so they've been really, really supportive, hugely supportive, and helpful in terms of the kind of preparation for going across and giving us an insight into what it's like over there and the kind of daily and weekly schedules and all that. So yeah, we've gotten a little bit of an insight, but once we land, I think we'll get our eyes opened a bit too.
Because this has been a while coming. You were announced months ago now in terms of that the contract was secured. How have the last 6 months been in that build up to departure day tomorrow? Yeah,
it's kind of the last few weeks, I think, especially have just flown in. It's been kind of exciting, I suppose. Really, it was May when it was kind of confirmed and announced and that, but. I suppose over the last couple of months, the big thing that stood out to me is the level of kind of support and interest in people in the community. We had a bit of a going away do at the weekend there, and just the level of support really from the whole community, the whole parish, teammates, friends, family, everything has been unbelievable. So, that's really nice to have kind of going off and knowing that you have a huge community here behind you all the way.
Nobody came out with like green and red restraints trying to keep you in Kiltubbard for a couple of more months.
Not quite. No, they're delighted for me, and look, they know I'll be back in the green and red not too long either. So.
Now, last season there was 5 Irish girls in the AFL. This year it's a minimum of 18. The draft, as you mentioned, will be done by the time people are listening to this interview. It's done tomorrow as we're talking.
Yeah.
So there could be as many as 20 or 24 people involved in that league next year. There's going to be a huge Irish element because there's only 9 or 10 teams.
Yeah, there's this year it's up to 14 teams, but at the moment, there's nearly 2 Irish players signed on the vast majority of the list in terms of the teams over there. So yeah, like even the amount of people from over there that are living over there that have been on to me being like looking forward to the games and we'll catch you when you're in Melbourne or when you're in Sydney for the games and things like that. So yeah, I think it's going to add an extra element, I suppose, to the games, because most games you come out, you're going to be playing either both with Irish girls and against Irish girls. So I think, yeah, it'll have a really nice impact on it.
It's kind of a parallel to a well-trodden path for some of the Leitrim players over the last decade or so. I know Deirdre McDermott is out there. There's a couple of the Egan girls from Mohill are out there already. Bernie and Caroline are already in Perth. Sarah McLaughlin has spent some time out there as well. There's kind of a well-trodden path to that side of the island in terms of Australia. Have you spoken to any of those girls about what's in store for you, even though they're not in a professional context out there?
Yeah, no, there's a huge amount of Leitrim people and particularly Kiltubber people as well over there. It's amazing. Yeah, but I've been kind of in contact with a few of the guys over there, and look, they're just same as I'm excited about going out there, excited to have us out there and kind of meet up, I suppose, when we're out there and figure things out. But yeah, no, it's the support network here has obviously always been huge at both club and county, and I think when we arrive over there it's going to be the same. There's going to be a massive level of support and interest in it, which is great.
Now you're going out for pre-season for about 8 to 10 weeks and the games kick off at the start of 2020. What are you expecting in terms of around the hype, in terms of numbers at games, attendances, how the games are actually going to play?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I suppose we were lucky enough. We had an international tournament there a couple of weeks ago where we got the opportunity to play full 18-a-side, full pitch, full rules, everything. So that was kind of a really good opportunity to get an insight into what it's actually going to be like to make the step up. Obviously, it'll be a further step up again, landing into the top division over there. But it's just really exciting, I suppose. Like you'll be hoping for. Last year they had 8,000 at the round games. There's going to be a derby game this year against West Coast Eagles. They're hoping to have that in the Optus Stadium, which they're talking about having anything from 30,000-40,000 at it. So getting that opportunity to play in the big stadiums in front of the big crowds will be really exciting and something to look forward to.
Can you see that number of maybe 18 to 20 odd players increasing over the years in terms of the Irish girls flooding over to Australia?
Yeah, definitely. I think even this year, I think it's definitely going to rise by a few more now with the draft tomorrow. But yeah, it's a massive opportunity for girls, and it's an opportunity that you just don't get here. And even for, as I said earlier, for the male players to get an opportunity like that, they don't even get a chance really to make a living out of it here. So to get that opportunity, and at the moment the way it's set up, being able to kind of get the best of both worlds over there for the winter and then back here for the summer, if players want it, it's kind of a win-win situation really. So I definitely think it's something that going forward more and more Irish players will be interested in exploring.
On a practical level, is that realistic though? Maybe the first summer you'll come back and play with Kiltubber, maybe Leitrim, but going forward as you get closer to 30, because none of us are spring chickens anymore, but as you get closer to 30 and the body starts taking that toll, can you mix the two?
Yeah, I suppose it'll be a kind of step by step, year by year idea. Even in the talks of expansion of the league over there, they're talking about making the seasons longer every year as well, so that'll obviously come into play as well. But look, for the time being, it's a huge opportunity, and it's kind of, you've nothing to lose to go over, try it, live the lifestyle, I suppose, and get to see what it's all about.
You've kind of touched on my last question, I suppose. Other than the financial aspect of getting paid to go to work and be a professional athlete, what are the other attractions that really have drawn you to accept this offer?
Yeah, I suppose, look, the idea of seeing the world and getting a bit of travelling as well. Australia is a place I've never been to. I've been lucky enough, I suppose, with football and sport to travel to America, Canada, different places in Europe, London, and it's like that. It's just the opportunity to see new places, to explore a different lifestyle. Bit of sunshine during the winter, nobody's going to complain about. And yeah, just, I suppose, see what it's all about, really.
There's some nice surfing locations as well on that west coast of Australia. Well, listen, Aine, I want to wish you the very, very best of luck in your little adventure that's coming up. It's not that little of an adventure, it's on the other side of the planet. I'm sure things will go absolutely amazing for you. The very best of luck from everybody here at Leitrim Daily. I think I speak on behalf of most people in the county, particularly from the other ladies football teams around the county. They'll be quite happy not to have to mark you next year in the club championships here. Very best of luck and enjoy every minute of it.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
We will obviously catch up with you as well, and we'll keep an eye on your progress and maybe check in with you every couple of games just to see how things are going for you.
Yep, deadly.
Best of luck.
Perfect. Thank you.
Now, one football manager this year who probably didn't expect to talk to the show again, given their defeat to Melvin Gales in the Championship and I suppose the outlook at the end of the league season, is St Mary's Joe Flynn. But he joins me today ahead of a slightly surprise league final on Saturday, I think it's fair to say. Joe, welcome back to the programme.
Thanks a million, Breifne.
I hope I'm not underplaying the achievement in the league this year for your team, but I think it's fair to say that most observers would have thought that St Mary's season was done and dusted when you lost to Melvin Gales in that quarter-final.
Yeah, it's probably fair to say that we thought our season was over, but in the league we put ourselves into a shout of getting to a league final with a couple of big performances towards the end. Beating Ballinamore, beating Mohill. So it put us in the position. We were waiting on results. We knew it was going to be a waiting game. We figured Ballinamore might be a bit vulnerable after the championship weekend, the weekend before. Whether they won it or lost it, they were going to be vulnerable, and Mohill capitalised with a 1-point win. So we'll take it. The county board only give out 2 prizes every year to senior teams, and we're in with a big shout of one of them. So it's a good place to be.
How are your team shaping up for the weekend? Like, have you been in training since that championship defeat? We
haven't really been doing a whole lot, to tell you the truth. The minors have been preparing for their Connacht Championship, which is taking place on Tuesday. The under-20s are preparing for their championship, which starts in a couple of weeks. And then again, the hurlers, they've been preparing for the county final last weekend, and again, the Connacht on Monday. So there are a few players have been getting a lot of work done, but then there's a few who haven't been doing so much. We've had a couple of collective sessions, but nothing like you be preparing for a championship final. So we're just happy again to get the opportunity to play in a league final, and on the day anything can happen.
How much of a distraction is it that the hurlers are out in the Connacht Championship on Monday and the minors, as you mentioned, are Tuesday evening over in Ballyhonus?
Yeah, it's not ideal. It's probably unfair on everyone. It's unfair on the minors who are trying to prepare for their match on Tuesday. I'm sure they're going to have collective sessions on Friday, and we're going to be looking to be pulling a few players off that. They're running the risk then of injury. Again, we have a couple of players who are involved in both the hurling and the football, so they're going to be expected to play 2 matches in 48 hours, and then there's one player who's going to be expected to play 3 matches in 72 hours. So it's unfair on their preparation. I'd be more thoughtful towards them than my preparation, and we put a lot of work in earlier on in the league and throughout the year. Now this probably should be the time that the other teams should be looked after, and that just hasn't happened, unfortunately. But we'll keep moving on.
How much does this mean to the club, particularly, I suppose, given the tragic loss during the week of your club treasurer, Joe Shannon?
Yeah, it's a very sad occasion for the club. Last Saturday morning, when I woke up, I saw a message on Facebook saying that there was a sudden bereavement. And to hear it was Joe, he was just such a lovely man, a gentleman, a solid character in the club, and he was a future in the club at administration level, definitely, and he was already shown what an operator he was at Treasure. So just an awful loss. And if we can put in a performance that Joe will be proud of on Saturday, that's all we're going to do. We won't be pressuring the lads into win or anything like that for Joe. It's just a performance. That's what they want. So, and just I'd like to pass on my condolences to the Shannon family. So.
Absolutely, and from all of us here on Leitrim Daily as well. Joe, thanks very much for joining me. Best of luck on Saturday, and what's a surprise late October fixture for you.
Thanks very much, Breifne.
This show is sponsored by Padraig King, and at the top of the show I mentioned his course, Learn How to Switch Off Your Anxiety and Rewire Your Brain for Success. It's a 2-day transformation workshop for you, led by Padraig King. It's ideal if you're genuinely seeking an end to your anxiety and stress and want a better, more meaningful and rewarding life with a fresh new mindset and the right attitudes to create for you the results you could enjoy if only you were confident, calm and free to be your successful self. The event takes place in the Spool Factory in Boyle in County Roscommon next Tuesday and Wednesday, the 29th and 30th of October. And it really is a fantastic opportunity to de-stress your life and learn how to cope with anxiety and how to create the kind of life you want, as well as the successful outcomes that you have always desired. You can register online for the course. Details are on leitrimdaily.com or on padraigking.com, and if you use the coupon code LeitrimDaily, you save 10% off the price of the course. Well worth checking out, and thank you to Padraig for his continued support of the show. Anyway, let's get back to the sport. Of course, St Mary's face Mohill in the final, and I am joined by Alan Armstrong, one of the Mohill players, ahead of the game on Saturday afternoon. Alan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Talk me through last week's game first, because it was a strange kind of a game. Ballinamore went 6 points up in the first quarter of an hour, and yet he managed to hold on, probably against the odds, to win that game and put them out of the competition.
Yeah, I suppose it was a poor and lazy start from us, but I suppose the conditions had a big factor in the game. There was a very strong wind that we were faced, and Ballinamore were playing a kind of kicked a long ball into Dean McGovern. So look, it's Ballinamore were lucky to get a good start off, but yeah, the conditions were a huge factor for us. But look, we weathered the first half. We came out in the second half. We knew that we'd get our chance as well. It was just a matter of when we did, that we had to make sure that we took our scores, and luckily enough, thanks be to God, we did.
Yeah, Donald Flynn goal obviously probably put the cat among the pigeons in Ballinamore, and you just seemed to have enough experience there to edge it when maybe they panicked a bit towards the end of the game.
Yeah, look, I think Shane kind of hit the nail on the head the last time when he was talking. It was a very peculiar thing that Shane Moran, all he had to do was put the ball over. Look, it probably was the case that he didn't know that they needed a draw just to go through. But look, at these things happen in football. So look, and we're just glad that we weathered the storm and look, we're in the league final where these are the kind of games that we want to be in. So.
So this week St Mary's are the opponents. Joe Flynn has told us that they weren't training in the interim because they didn't really expect to make the league final, but here they are. What difference do you think that's going to make to your game on Saturday?
Look, I suppose we've been in these positions many times before, and look, we're just looking at ourselves. We're just looking for another big performance. A lot of people have kind of questioned us this year about our I suppose work rate and things like that. So look, we're just concentrating on ourselves. Leave Carrick to do their own thing. I think there's a lot of talk around them playing the hurling, and there's under-20s playing a different game as well on the Tuesday. So look, these are all challenges we have to face. Like, we have a lot of lads that are travelling, midweek and things like that for training. So it's just the way football is these days. And look, we'll just focus come Saturday on our own performance and worry about ourselves.
In terms of a look back at the overall season, disappointed obviously to go out in the championship semi-final. How much of a pick-me-up is this league final, and how important is it to the club that you win it, or does it really matter?
Oh, absolutely. Any time you get into a final, it means a lot. For us as players, I suppose first, it's huge. At the end of the day, we've been training since, I suppose, last February or March. The year is a long time. So look, when you put in that bit of effort, you look forward to moments like this. So look, if we win on Saturday, it'll be a great reward for us. It'll be something. It's silverware at the end of the day. And look, not too many people in Leitrim can say that they have 5 or 6 league medals. So look, every one counts, and that's the way we'll be looking at it. So yeah, look, it's a league final. It's definitely important.
We spoke to Shane obviously last weekend, and he said he was away. He was in the States this week. And has that situation been rectified? Have you put him in handcuffs and kept him in the country, or will he be around on Saturday?
No, unfortunately not. We can't do that. There'd be repercussions, I suppose, from our side if we did that. But no, look at Shane. He's with the county. He's put in a serious effort all year, himself and Donald. So players like that, you can't begrudge them if they wanted to go away. Look at Leitrim football is kind of with all the setbacks through it, it's kind of dragged on a little bit. So cause people have to live their lives as well. So no, look at if Shane is going away, that's his own decision, and look, we have several people on the bench that were, I suppose, one thing, Mohill, we're very lucky to have a young team. We have a strong bench, and we'd be confident that anybody that comes in and fills the same position, that they'd be fit to do the job.
How much do you know about Carrick? You haven't played them in this year's championship, so...
No, we played them in the league. Look at Carrick. They have huge potential, and they have a great team as well. So, we'll be under no illusions that they'll be coming out on Saturday with the full intention of winning a final. I don't think anybody goes into a final with the intention of losing. So, look at, like I said earlier on, we'll be just focused on ourselves and our own performance. And I think if we get that, we'll be confident enough to come up the right side of the battle.
Well, listen, Alan, I'll wish you the very best of luck. The game, of course, at 3 p.m. in Avantgarde Park, Sean McDermott in Carrick and Shannon, and it is Mohill against St Mary's in the Division 1 League final. The very best of luck to you.
Perfect. Thanks a million.
This weekend in the B Park in Manorhamilton sees Manor Rangers compete in the Under-13 Skechers Cup against Claremorris of Mayo, and I'm joined by Saoirse Cummins, who is the manager of the team. Saoirse, welcome to the programme.
Thanks very much.
You must be excited. These national cups have a nice kind of feel to them, and the kids must be very excited about it.
Definitely, it's a good change away from the league because you're not used to your opposition, and chances are you haven't played them before, so it's something different compared to being used to the league and the way the teams are in the league. It's a good change.
So how much do you know about your opponents on Saturday, Claremorris?
I've definitely done my homework. I have a good source who gives me a bit of intel, and we would expect them coming up from Mayo to be a good playing team, which we like. We like playing on the ground, and we are delighted to have a team coming up that will play on the ground because it suits us, and we're definitely looking forward to giving them a good game. And as I say, I've done my homework, so we're ready for them.
I think it's important to say as well that we are talking about the Under-13 boys team because
it's
quite unusual to be talking to a female coach who's over a team. What's it like coaching a team of boys in the club?
I do get a few looks when I head to games. They look and they're kind of going, "Are you the manager?" And sometimes I don't get offended by it because I've had these lads for 4 or 5 years now, so I've kind of come up through the ranks with them, and the lads give me nothing but the utmost respect, and they don't look at me as a female. They kind of look at me as their manager, which is nice, and we have a good bond, so it's not an issue with the lads, it's more an issue with the ones that don't know me,
How do the referees treat you?
The exact same as we're kind of familiar with a lot of the Sligo Leitrim referees because, as I say, I've been involved for a number of years, so they know me well enough to know who I am. Now
tell us a bit about Manor Rangers themselves in terms of the club. Like, how many teams does the club have?
I wouldn't say we're a small club, but in comparison to other clubs, you probably would call us a small club. We have academies starting from under 8s, and we go all the way up through the ranks, 10s, 11s, 12s, 13s, all the way up to 18s. And then we've got one senior team, men's, and we've got girls as well. So, we're supplying a lot of soccer to the community, and we have a large catchment area in terms of Dromahair, Glenfarne, Glencar, all that sort of stuff, So I'd say we have about 200 members, it's a big enough, it's a big commitment, but it's worth it.
And of course you play your home games in the B Park. What's it like now that Glencar Manor have moved out the road to Bugon? Is it a bit quieter around the B Park?
It's a bit quieter, but it's not much difference. We tend to draw different crowds, the Gaelic and the soccer, It's definitely two different sports. Like, it is quieter, don't get me wrong, but we draw our own crowds, which is good.
How has the season been going for you so far?
We've had 2 friendlies, which we won both of, and we've played our first league game against Benbulben, which we won, and we played a Skechers game down in Colemanstown, and we beat them as well. It took us extra time, but we beat them 3-1 in extra time. So,
in terms of the overall season, people, I suppose, listening to the show from Leitrim are generally used to Gaelic games, so they know the league is played and then the championship is what it's all about. But in soccer, the league is probably the premier competition. That's what you're most focused on. But how much of a distraction are these little cup runs?
You can look at it in 2 ways. You could look at it that if you were focusing on the league, that a cup would be a distraction. But the way that I would look at it would be, your league is for your whole season. You're concentrating on that. But it's nice to throw in something else that's a cup competition, and you do progress quicker in a cup competition. Like, we're in the last 16 in Connacht at the minute in this cup, and we're actually the only team in Sligo Leitrim left in the competition. So that in itself is an achievement. So that boosts the lads' confidence in that if we win this game, we're through to the last 8. And that's a lot of confidence early on in the season that you wouldn't see or you wouldn't feel even in the league, because you've only played 2 or 3 league games. But if you take a few cup games and all of a sudden you're challenging for last 8 in Connacht, it's a big up for the lads, you know.
Yeah, and I suppose one of the big advances in the last couple of years is the advent of the underage League of Ireland competitions at under 13s, 15s, 17s, 19s. I know 2 girls from Manorhamilton went in this year to the under 17 side, Myrn and Leah. There's also a couple of lads went in at the younger age groups in under 13, under 15. How does that affect your squads going forward?
Me looking at it from a manager's perspective, I think it's brilliant, and I think it's a bit of a pat on your own back too when you see one of your own players going to a higher level, and you know you're going to miss them because chances are they are one of your best players. But at the same time, I think it's brilliant to have something so close to home that, like, we've seen scouts at our games now at the start of the season for Rovers under 13s, you know, and it's a great up for the lads because it gives them the confidence to know that there is somebody watching them, and I think it does drive them on a bit. And I think it's great that Sligo Rovers have set up this system, you know, especially the female aspect of it as well, because it's something for them to drive onto as well for a higher level, you know.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Saoirse, I want to wish you the very best of luck on Saturday at 2 p.m. in the B Park. It's a great afternoon out for anyone who might want to go down and watch a good, decent team play a bit of football on a Saturday afternoon, and I wish you the very best of luck in the game.
Thanks a million.
In other soccer news, also at underage FAI Challenge Cup under 17 this time, Manor Rangers are away to Merville of Sligo at 2 p.m. in that particular competition, while on Sunday Carricktown host Coolana United also at 2 p.m. in the Connacht FA Cup. A big weekend for all of those teams, while Sligo Leitrim League action continues for most of the teams in both Manor Rangers and Carricktown over the weekend. Sligo Rovers' last game of the SSE Airtricity League season takes place tonight against Bohemians in Dalymount Park. A 7:45 kickoff there for a game that is sold out for the home side, but there are still tickets in the away end for any Sligo fans looking to make the journey. It'll be your last chance to get some League of Ireland football in the region, although technically it's not in the region, but you know what I mean. One of the teams from the region, it's their last game until the league starts back again in February. As well as the Division 1 League Final, which takes place at 3 p.m. in Avantgarde Park, Sean McDermott, there are some other games taking place. The Under-16 Father Manning Cup starts on Saturday at 3 p.m. in Mohill, with Leitrim facing the Meath, with Leitrim facing a challenge from Meath in that particular competition. I caught up with the Leitrim manager, Mark Heslin, yesterday evening for a chat about how his side are getting on. Mark, welcome to the programme.
Thanks, Breifne. Great to be here.
It's nice to be back playing county football again after a lot of club attention over the last few months. These young lads that have come in, it's next year's minor squad effectively, so they're all under 16 this year, 16 years of age. What's it been like this season, and how are you faring up for the weekend?
It's faring up well, in fairness. As the year ago, as you said, they were in with their clubs. They were probably with their clubs for most of the year. But yeah, it would be building for next year's minor panel, along with maybe a few others coming in, and maybe some from the lower age group as well to come in and push it on as well. So there'll be a certain amount of them probably making it in the minor panel next year.
This weekend you see a challenge against Meath. The Father Manning Cup, let's explain to people exactly what the Father Manning Cup is, because people not involved with the inter-county scene won't be familiar with it, but it's basically a series of groups of teams around the country.
Yeah.
You progress through, you play 3 games in the competition, and the top or maybe top 2 teams go into knockout competitions, and there's different levels as well.
There's different levels. You have the cup. The top team will go into the cup. Second team will go into the shield, and you'll have a plate. It's done like that. So there's something to play for throughout the whole group stage. In fairness, so.
And I suppose essentially, while there is a trophy there at the end and a final for lads to look forward to, it really is about giving them good quality games against top quality opposition. Absolutely.
You have the Leinster teams in it. It's really a Leinster competition as such, but it's great to be in there. It's great to be getting games for these lads at the tail end of the season to try to give them something to build on, to work on, when they're getting into the gym over the winter, that they've something to bite on and say, yeah, we can do something here next year, and it's great to get top games. Meath, in fairness, they're a top team. We're under no illusions what we're facing in Mohill on Saturday. They're a tough team. They won the Jerry Riley tournament earlier in the summer. They beat Kildare with 4 goals and 2 points in the semi-final. They beat Dublin in the final. They're probably not too worried about what we're going to throw at them on Saturday, but we're ready. We're ready to give it a right good shift on Saturday, and the lads are prepared to do it. We spoke to them the other night, and we've had them since the end of the Under-17 Championship. We've got 9 sessions straight with them and 2 challenge matches, and they've worked extremely hard. I have to say, they really want it. You can see they're fired up. They're really loving the consistency of the Monday gym, Wednesday training on the Saturday or a game. They're really grasped onto it, and they're pushing hard. You can actually see the improvement if you stand back and look at the improvement from when they come in and the 9 sessions. They really have bought into it. So they will be giving it everything against Meath on Saturday.
In terms of the Gaelic games in Leitrim at the moment, there's obviously a huge crest of a wave all season, whether it's the hurlers getting to Croke Park, winning the Lory Mar, having a fantastic season. Carrick hurlers kind of set the trend at the start of the year. Then the footballers came in, didn't win Division 4, but got to the final of Division 4 another day out in Croke Park.
Brilliant.
And it just seems to have really sunk down into the lower levels. Can you see that with these lads? Are they looking at those days out in Croke Park thinking, if I start this, that could be me in a couple of years' time?
You can to an extent. But I suppose if you're going out and getting defeated in games in Ted Webbs and stuff like that, you have to try and build them again and build that confidence, I suppose. And it's a massive part of our role that we build the confidence in these young lads. Like, we can't tell them to be confident. We can't tell them that you're better than the next. They have to grow that and believe in that. And it's small little victories along the way. It's like we're biting on to the 9 sessions and the 2 games that we're telling them how much they progressed, and they're buying in and they're looking back at the work they've done and the effort they've put in, and that's part of building confidence as well. So the Leitrim thing was great, going to the games, coming back, chatting about it, going to Croke Park and the hurlers and everything, but they look at their own, what they're doing themselves as well, and that's a massive part. They know, I suppose, going into a minor or going into a Father Manning against Meath, like, if you're playing at your level, like Leitrim were in Division 4, brilliant, competing, brilliant up to Division 3. So they just have to build the confidence that they can go and compete with players of that level, and on any given day go out and play a Meath, play a Mayo, play a Galway, whatever it is. And if the work rate is right and the preparation is right and the dedication is right, attitude, everything, any given day they can go out and turn one of the top teams over.
And it's interesting to say that, because there's a belief out there that at senior level, Leitrim can't compete with the Dublins and Corks and Galways and Mayos of this world. Yeah. And the excuses we hear all the time are about money, facilities, resources, population. But at underage levels in the county, not every year, but in selected years, Leitrim really, really puts it up to some of those teams at under 14, under 15, under 16, and regularly gets positive results. So why can we do it when in theory the numbers are actually smaller to pick from in a specific age group?
Yeah, I don't know, probably is the answer. There's a lot of things coming into play. Like when you're playing games at under 14, under 15, if you're playing the Mayos, they have 4 squads in. It builds confidence. You have all that, but it is, we probably were our own worst enemy. I believe it's about contact time with these players and getting the proper contact with them at academy level that will bring them on and build their confidence. And the club competitions are brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and the effort that's put in by coaches and clubs out there it's fantastic, and they're all volunteers and they're doing it. But they're probably playing at a club level, and they come straight in without having played at an academy level for maybe 4 or 5 weeks. They can't just hit the ground running. They can't turn that switch on. They go play some of these teams in a Ted Webb or whatever it is, and it's like being hit by a train. So there's a lot of different things. There's a review going on at the minute and hopefully there'll be some answers out of it, how we can push forward, because the young lads deserve it as well.
We have spoken to Enna Lyons a bit on the show. One of the times we spoke to him was about the new regional teams.
Yeah.
Has that made a difference, or will that make a difference?
I think it can make a massive difference. I think if we can do something in a way that we can incorporate that, plus have their club competitions. That these lads love their clubs. Like, we all love our clubs, and we've played for them and everything, and they have to be able to play for them. But we need regional competitions where they're playing within their own age. If you're 14, you're playing with all 14-year-olds. If you're 15, and they're getting a real taste of good competitive football with good coaching alongside that, to develop their, your decision making. The higher the level you play, your decision making process, how quick you can do that, your skill execution has to be better. All these things have to be better. Your physical fitness has to be better, or all the things you need to play football has to be better when you're playing at a higher level. So it can only be good, and the lads, the GDAs, are fair play. They're doing a great job in that respect. The regional stuff, I think, is brilliant. Yeah, no, really, it's built that bridge between playing with your clubs, where maybe some of the players you're playing around aren't up to the standard that you're at, versus, as you said, getting hit by a train when you go to play a Galway or a Mayo team. Absolutely. It's bridging that gap and giving lads a bit of a taster of what each step is going to be along the way. And it's nothing to do with club coaches or clubs. It's just, if you have a 17-year-old playing against a 14-year-old, and training with them, with the big age gap that we have, you just can't. You can't bridge that gap and really make it really competitive for them. So it's like hitting a train. I tell you, you go over to Ballyhonus there, Beacon there, and you the first 5 minutes, it's a totally different world for them, So, but again, we have the time we have with them, and we have to try and just do the best with them and get them to buy in and be the best that they can be on any given day,
Absolutely. Well, listen, Mark, thank you very much for coming and having a chat with us. The very best luck in the For the Manning Cup. I know it's a trophy that Leitrim set out every year with a ambition maybe to win the Shield or something like that in that competition, because obviously we're not going to compete week in, week out with the Dublins for the reasons we outlined, but on any given day we can beat anybody.
Absolutely. And I see it as a competition too, that it really is. It's great preparation going into the winter for our minors now next year, that there's something to bite onto. Like, we have Meath, get a massive performance against Meath. We have Roscommon the week after, and we have Offaly the week after that, and you start getting performances. And when we do get good performances, whether we win or not, and you talk to the lads afterwards, and they've put in a massive shift, and maybe the second half has been a lot better than the first half, they start to realise that, when we're on it, we can compete. And even if we're getting them small victories out of it, it's great. But make no bones about it, we're going flat out for a win in every game starting Saturday.
Perfect. Listen, Mark, thank you very much for dropping into us. The very best of luck on Saturday.
Breifne, thanks very much. It was a pleasure.
Sunday sees the Vistamed Junior A Football Championship final take place between Anaduff and Glencar Manor. Both teams are second sides from within those two clubs, and a keenly contested final is expected, while Manor will be hoping to set the second of a 3-leg possible championship whitewash on the record for their 50th year in existence. Anaduff will be hoping to be the party poopers on the day in Park Sean McDermott at 2 p.m. on Sunday. On Monday afternoon at 2 p.m. in Markovitz Park, Carrick Hurling will be flying the flag for Leitrim in the Connacht Junior Club Championship. They play Nave Owen of Sligo, who won the county championship there. Carrick, of course, the defending champions, will be hoping to go as far as they did last year, if not a little bit further, well past the Connacht Championship. So here's hoping that Carrick can continue their fantastic form and maybe take one step closer to defending that junior championship. Internally in the county, the under-15 championship continues with the 6th round of 7 in that particular competition this weekend. Full fixtures on the Leitrim GAA website. While at minor level, Melvin Gales and St Mary's will take part in the Connacht Club Championships at B and A level respectively. Those games taking place on Tuesday evening in the Centre of Excellence for Connacht in Ballyhonus. The very best of luck to both sides. They, of course, would have qualified for this competition this year by virtue of winning the under-17 competition within the county last year. And of course, a reminder about the Cube event, which takes place in the Landmark Central tomorrow at 8 p.m. in Carrick-on-Shannon. It's a massive fundraiser for the ladies board within the county. We would ask you that you support it massively, because this will pay for the development of the underage squads within the county. And it's a massive step towards putting Leitrim Ladies football on an even keel into the future. After a couple of years of choppy waters, it'd be great to see Leitrim Ladies put the best foot forward over the next couple of years. There's a new manager in place. The county board have really stabilised the ship this year, and it would be great to see as much support as possible on Saturday night to really help them take that step forward in the right direction. And that is all we have time for today, folks. Thank you so much for joining me for yet another episode of Leitrim Daily. Of course, a reminder that this show was sponsored by Potter King, and specifically his Learn How to Switch Off Your Anxiety and Rewire Your Brain for Success, a 2-day course taking place in the Spool Factory in Boyle next Tuesday and Wednesday. Full details on our event guide on leitrimdaily.com. And that is it from me today. My name is Breifne Early. Thank you so much for joining me. I will be back tomorrow with a current affair where we'll be looking at lifting the silence of suicide, a new programme from the HSE, and I'll be joined by 2 mental health community nurses, Valerie Cogan and Hubert McHugh, to discuss that programme in a bit more depth. Talk to you then.